Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I've never used Zoom before. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Really?
good.
This is your first time using Zoom.
It is indeed.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. It's been like, I think 2, maybe 3 years out already since the pandemic.
I have no reason to use it. So, apart-
Well, I'm glad I popped your cherry on this one.
yes, you did. Yeah. Let's hope it's good.
Yeah, no, I can see you. I can hear you just fine. And I'm going to use my inductive reasoning. Are you an early riser?
Yes, I am. Yeah, yeah,
Really? Okay, because that made a lot of sense because I was getting texts from like 7, 8 a.m. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, I'm
yeah.
a complete night owl. So I'm active at night like a vampire.
Well,
But
you're young and invincible. I'm an old
yeah.
man. So.
Well, I mean, hopefully when I get older, I mean, I still want to be active in the nightlife. So
Right, right. Well, I got 5 children. I still have an 11-year-old goes to school, so I have to get up in the morning. I
dad duties.
dad duties.
Is that your youngest, the 11-year-old?
Yeah, my oldest is 43 and my youngest is 11.
Wow. Okay. So well, you come from a big family too. My
Yeah.
mom is the oldest of 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have 5 kids, as you mentioned. I'm curious, do they influence, like, who are they listening to that maybe inspire you musically?
Well, they listen to a lot of music. They're all musicians. They play in jazz bands and big bands and rock and roll bands. They listen from everything to early punk, to jazz music, Art Blake, Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra, Led Zeppelin. I mean, they run the whole gamut. They love music and they listen to a lot of music. So, plus I have my daughter who prefers, the more the typical teenagers,
Yeah. Well, they seem
girls
to
who
have
are
a very
singers.
collective taste. And I'm sure
Yeah.
those are some musicians that you passed down to them as well.
Yeah, I probably passed down the Velvet Underground, Led Zeppelin, Johnny Cash, stuff like that.
Now, I don't know if you get this often, but I hear you bring it up. Like you mentioned, you're a parent of 5 kids. You're also a husband. How is that like balancing the work life and family life, and what are the challenges?
I don't know if there are any challenges. I mean, my priority is my family and my children. So the music, I mean, I do. I just came back from South America. I mean, I travel the world and I record. I need to make a new record. But no, it has no impact whatsoever. I just do it, and I love to perform. And I love to travel. So it works out perfectly. I mean, music to me is it's more of a vacation or a hobby, So when I play, or I mean, the idea of jumping on a plane and being in Rio de Janeiro in 24 hours is fantastic.
I was gonna say that. So, like, when you go on tour, like, is that like a nice vacation from the family, or like, oh,
Oh
I
God,
really
yeah.
miss them?
No, no, it's a vacation. I love it. Yeah. So trust me, you'll find out. Hopefully, maybe. Depends on
Like,
you.
we're not going down that lane.
Okay.
If you've watched it or not, but recently the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just happened, and
I
just
never watch it. No, no,
no, you never do.
no,
Why is
never
that?
have. It's pointless. It's I don't see the point. Everyone knows who the greatest bands were. And they're running out of bands to induct. I mean, at this rate, I'll get a call.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been going on since the formation of the 80s and such.
Right.
And I was just wondering, like, wouldn't it be an honor for Loves Jezebel to be inducted?
I don't think so. No. No.
Not so. If Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, you wouldn't want to be inducted by him?
Not particularly. I mean, why? Who? I don't think I'd bother to go. One, unless they move it to New York or or Buenos Aires. I'll screw it. No, it would be an honor, but it's not something I think about.
I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned how you feel like they're kind of running out of bands to induct because they are going in a different direction. They're inducting even other musicians from different genres as well, where
Right.
people kind of feel like, well, what to you, what is the state of rock?
It's alive and vibrant, but on a commercial level, between Spotify's and YouTube's, and it's kind of dead. But it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I love music and I will seek it out no matter what. Uh, I don't care. You know, I'd rather see a show with a band in a club, for example, than go and see it in the stadium. I mean, that's one thing that's still very much alive. I do enjoy live band. I love live music, particularly in a small setting. House of Blues being the kind of level at which I think is ideal. You know,
There's more of a connection and intimacy when it is a small venue.
right? Stadiums are
So,
horrible. It's horrible, horrible.
right, and especially festivals.
They're disgusting. You know, they're just bacterial events. You know, COVID thrives. You know, you know the bathrooms, the rise, the prices of beers, the parking. It's just one big hassle. You know, and in California, they put it in the desert where it's so hot. It's impossible. It's miserable. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
won't go to a music festival unless it's like within an hour, maybe 2
right.
hour drive. But yeah, I'm like I'm not gonna be flying over to a
The
music
last
festival.
the last festivals I went to were Pink Floyd in 1975, which was in Nebworth. Might have been 74. And I was like 15 years of age, and I hated that. And
Wow.
I remember being on that show, and it was chilly. It was a chilly day and a grey day in England, and I said to myself, next time I come to one of these events, I'll be on that side of the stage. You know, I will never go to another again. So,
I recently saw the Roger Waters tour
awesome, yeah.
in San
Totally,
Francisco.
I'd love to see that actually. There's an exception that proves the rule. You know, did you enjoy it?
So here's the thing. This is where you may now find some indifference with me. I think I prefer David Gilmour's version of Pink Floyd.
Oh, I don't care. You know, so to me they're both very boring live. You know, music. So I love rock and roll bands. You know, give me Led Zeppelin or the Stones. I love Dave Gilmour's guitar playing, though. I will say that. You know.
I'm gonna bring this up again. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They inducted Jimmy Iovine, who's a producer engineer. Dr. Dre, rapper, he was saying how he broke egos now because he worked with different collaborations of multiple artists. Now, I remember listening to an interview with you, and this was a time when you were, I believe you did a tour with New Order, you did a show with them, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you mentioned how there was very few words exchanged and it was because of ego and treating one another like
Yeah.
competitors. Why do you think that existed back then and not so much now?
Well, I think we were insecure as the main reason. You know, and it was very competitive. End of story. You know, I regret that. If I could go back, I would have talked to a lot more people. But I met even in the day. I mean, I could have sat down. Jimmy Page was sitting opposite me drinking coffee. I could have had a chat with him, Van Morrison, Bruce Springsteen. So I regret that. I should have said hi. I should have, you know, at the end of the New Order Bunnymen tour, it's Ian McCulloch's wife. I'm not sure if he's still married, who introduced me to Ian, and we chatted for an hour. It's foolish, you know. All you can do is make a bill better. You can't make it worse. So we're really on the same team, you know. You want to make it a great event for everyone who attends.
So New Order just played in San Francisco with Pet Shop Boys, and tickets were so expensive. You're talking about music
Correct.
festival prices, and I find out later that a friend of mine had free tickets because he interviewed the opening DJ who was playing during intermission and forgot that I liked New Order, so didn't even invite me.
Uh-oh. That's
Yeah.
one way to end a friendship. Yeah.
I was like, Michael said it. We got to break up. I'm sorry.
That's that way done.
I knew that your band existed. I seem to discover it a little bit more thanks to SiriusXM, so maybe they could sponsor me.
Right. Yeah.
um, but your music, Gene Loves Jezebel, has been played a lot of times on the first wave station. And
Right.
when I think of new wave, I think of the electronic dance pop, again, like New
Right.
Order, Human League.
Right.
But your band was labeled goth rock. Was
Well,
that some uh-huh.
that was lazy because in that era, you're right. It was very keyboard, synth, drum, you know, synth, whatever, you know. But we were very much organic rock and roll band. We were guitars. We never used keyboards. We never used. We never recorded a vocal and then just looped it. So we were pretty Catholic about our taste, saying it has to be this way. You know, we were a rock band. I don't think if I mean, if we're a goth band, then so is Led Zeppelin, and so is Johnny Cash. I mean, it's a romantic lyric, and there's some, a psychological aspect to what we do, a psyche, a cathartic level to our music. But what is gothic? It's silly, Are the Cure gothic? Not really. I don't think so. They write
Really?
great pop songs. They write great pop songs, great melodies, fun lyrics. It's a very joyful music if you listen to them. Today I felt so old. Like my children love it. When they were toddlers, they'd be jumping around to it. You could say New Order are more of a goth band.
Well, I think people would say Joy Division's more of a goth band.
Well, they all have the same roots. The only
Yeah.
thing they lost was the singer.
I think also it comes down to the image of the band. When I
Lazy
was
journalism is what it is.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, when I
So,
was listening to Gene Loves Jezebel, I was like, where's the goth? I don't hear it. Like you said, I
right,
hear it's guitar driven, it's pulsating drums. I think to me it was experimental. Like you said, it was rock and roll. So
right.
I was like scratching my head on that one.
Yeah. It's just laziness. But we didn't help. And we wore the pan makeup and the red lipstick and the mascara, dark clothing or richer purples and reds and clarets and lots of jewelry. And we were just younger and it was fun.
You mentioned about what is goth, but let me ask you this. How do you define rock?
Well, it's a combination of blues, country music, bluegrass. It's a folk music. It's a poor man's music. It's a music of struggle. It's a music of youth, exuberance. It's a music of rebellion. It's a music of anger. It's a music of joy. It's uh, it's simple. It's American. Thank you, America. Yeah.
Lionel Richie mentioned how rock is also not just a color, it's a feeling, it's a vibe. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, it's very deep, multifaceted. I mean, great example, Lionel Richie. Against Elvis Presley. It's come so far. It's so diverse, and it's a large tent.
Obviously the music industry has changed, evolved since you were making music, and it's become more like do it yourself. A lot of bands don't need to be signed anymore. There's
Ooh.
TikTok, which I kind of cringe. What is something you wish that's relevant today that happened back then in your time and vice versa?
I think our time was much better. I think we were at the pinnacle of it. I mean, now you can't turn in any direction because someone's got a camera in your face. You can't say anything. You can't do anything. And two, I prefer the '80s because you weren't constantly on. You didn't have to follow up on a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok, or you had a life removed. There's more mystery now, unless you've got a billion followers, you're not even in the game. So I prefer our time. There's nothing of today that I like.
You talked about mystery, and I think that's what drew me into doing radio is because like, hey, someone could hear my voice but they don't know how I look like unless they do their
Right.
research. What is the importance to you of college radio? Because you mentioned college radio was really what kicked off Gene Loves Jezebel.
Yeah, college radio invented us. They discovered us and they embraced us. So I mean, we had it was the only radio you could get outside K Rock or maybe a few progressive stations. Like Los Angeles, Boston, maybe New York. The only way you could get heard was college radio, which became huge in itself. So a college radio really was the uh, set up the future. MTV became college radio, and all the Jane's Addictions and the U2s and the you know whatever. I can't remember half the bands. Any more examples? I'm getting old and senile. What can I do?
So getting on MTV, was that the pinnacle point where you felt like, okay, we kind of made it to the top now?
It had a negative effect on me because I mean it was so shallow, so ephemeral, and it's this week's flavor. And they embraced us for a while. They played a lot of us. They played Desire, Sweetest Thing, Heartache. Um, but I just it's to me we'd moved too far away from what I thought we were, which was outside. I think it changed. It had a negative impact on the band as a whole, in my opinion. I mean, the rest of the band might disagree, but I think it put us into the sexy kitten bullshit. Became a girls' band. Um,
You're
that's
not wrong about that.
that's the death knell to any band. but we played up to it. I mean, so I wouldn't say I regret it because it was a lot of fun. It's nice to arrive at a hotel and there's 300 people waiting for you. Nice to come off stage. You can't get off stage because everyone's ripping your hair out, your clothes off. It's like minor Beatlemania. That's how it
Yeah.
was.
So we should not expect ripping your shirt when you come play the Retro Junkie.
Well, you may do. I mean, I still people still come, and we still draw a lot of young people, So that's surprising, and that's one of the great things, Um, so hopefully not.
Right. Make sure you pack extra clothes just in case.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
You mentioned about your song Desire. I know that it was featured in the John Hughes movie with Kevin Bacon. However, that's not the only time Gene Loves Jezebel's music has been featured in a form of media. Your song 20 Kilohertz was in an episode of Miami Vice. Was that ever an intention for the band to have it be synced into either a show
No,
or a film?
that's being on a major record label in the day. They petitioned for that because they saw that as free advertising basically.
Hmm.
Um, but we've also been like in obscure movies, Italian vampire movies. I had a song from my recent material was in Saturday Night Lights, Friday Night Lights, like it's a huge show on one of those things. I can't remember the name of it, but someone pointed that out to me, and we closed the show with a really obscure, perfect ending. It's called the Prairie Song, so that was nice. But we've turned up in all sorts of places.
Because I took a keen interest in music supervision because, I mean, going back to John Hughes, I think these directors, these music supervisors know how to set the tone with a scene
Of
based off a
course.
song.
Oh yeah, there's a great deal that goes into it. Yeah, they can get it so wrong too. So when they
Hmm.
get it right, you must applaud them.
It's absolutely art in itself. Now, I like this band Placebo. They just posted on social media that if anyone, because they're going on tour, if anyone is caught with any phones out, they are not going to continue on with the show. How do you feel about phones during your set?
I hate them. I totally hate them. I don't see the point. You might why don't you just stay and watch a live feed
Hmm.
where you look at your phone and post it on YouTube or Facebook and get some likes? Who cares? I hate them. When we used to play in the 80s, no cameras were allowed. But thinking back, we should have had cameras because we were young and we were beautiful. So we should have. Now, definitely no cameras. No.
Wait, so when you went to South America, you did not find the Fountain of Youth?
I did, yes, yeah.
So you're playing at Retro Junkie Bar in Walnut Creek this Friday, and once you go in, it's like stepping a foot into 80s nostalgia, like
I
you
can
just
see that.
traveled back in time.
Right.
So and a friend of mine, we were talking about how like the late 70s, 80s were just a magical period of music. So looking back, what's something in your early career that you miss or maybe you don't miss?
Doing everything for the first time is the greatest thing. Jumping on the first plane, doing your first shows. I can remember our very first show opening for Crass, and we were terrified. But as you grow and your confidence grows, you realize the audience is actually on your side. They didn't come, if there's 10 of them or 1,000 of them, they didn't come to hate you. But I remember our first American tour being magical. 6 people in a motel room. Uh, the long journeys. I remember getting sick. I remember just seeing places for the first time. I know I've been to South America on a number of occasions, and now it's become I might as well go to Anaheim. It becomes rote. We only ever did one European tour, and we took a train from Rome to Paris. We got on the wrong part of the train because half the train went to Paris, and the other half went to Bern in Switzerland, and we were on the wrong half. We ended up in Bern, in Switzerland, which we had to get off. So we had to hang out in Bern for about 6, 7 hours. And I remember it was freezing. It was a winter. On the corner, I saw a guy was selling a bunch of records on like a newsstand, and they had Immigrant, that second album we made
Yeah.
there, which totally blew my mind. The thought that another people who didn't necessarily speak English would buy a British record. And then we went. I remember we were the first British band to go to Argentina, and we played. We had no idea. We didn't know it was also after the Falklands War, the Malvinas, whatever, So people were saying, "Don't go to Argentina; they're all going to shoot you." But we didn't care, so we went and we walked on stage. There were 5,000 people, sold out crowd, and they knew every word. It's astonishing.
Yeah, music
In
is so
in English, they
universal.
knew all the words. It was crazy.
And here's another thing too is that like there's a French artist that I listen to. I don't speak a word of freaking French, but I
Right?
love her music. So even it's a different language,
Yeah.
when it's good.
Yeah, but I love Edith Piaf, but I don't know. I don't speak French, and
Mhm.
I know what she's singing about because I've looked at translations. But I would never be able to sing every phrase, no matter how often I sing it. Yet they're Spanish speaking. They spoke perfect English in the songs. Desire. I'm like, wow, okay. But I remember in the 80s, someone saying to me, an American friend, actually, was one of the road crew, his road manager. He said, "You should do your songs in Spanish because there's a huge audience." Well, none
Have
of
you
us
thought
spoke.
about it?
So we thought about it, yeah.
Okay.
It'd be a,
So that'd be
it'd be a long,
great.
it'd be a long process though for me to sing in Spanish. Estebardo, no, sacrificio Notre Dame.
It sounds like you've been
That was
practicing
good.
already.
I
Yeah.
like it. I'm liking it.
I want to hear Desire in Spanish Friday night then.
Okay, oof, that's pushing it. Maybe
Just
I'll try.
kidding.
I think I probably could. I could probably get a translation easily.
Right?
I did
Listen to
sing.
Rosetta Stone.
I did sing two verses in 20 years ago in French. So I got the translation. I walked on stage and sang, "Amour," simple enough. But
I work for a news station and I thought this was really funny that this was a news item. The whole Taylor Swift in Ticketmaster fiasco. Not sure if you heard about it.
I've heard of her because I believe she sells like 40 billion records and the biggest star ever born. But I
Right?
did I did listen to a couple of her songs and I really thought it was bland, really bland. But anyway, what do I know? I'm an old man. But anyway, tell me about the Taylor Swift
Yes.
thing.
So, like you mentioned, she keeps constantly making records and she's the hugest selling artist that she announced a tour, she announced a new album, and people are trying to get tickets for a show through Ticketmaster because it seems like that's the only option. And the
Right,
freaking website just like crashed and people were like waiting to get tickets and it just fell through. So now apparently it's going to be taken to Congress. They're going to investigate the whole Ticketmaster thing. And it's just like, it's so frustrating because like we are lovers of music
right.
and music, as I mentioned, it builds a community, it builds bridges, and yet you're it feels like you're taking that away from the fans
Well,
because you're
Ticketmaster,
thinking about profits.
they're so greedy, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason for people to spend three, four, five, six, $700 on tickets. It's insane. I'm a Oakland, well, Vegas Raiders now fan, and we go to one game every year because it's so expensive. And if you end up spending like $500 on tickets for a football game, it's insanity. But that's another argument. It does. They don't need to make that much money, and
They
Ticketmaster
don't.
don't need to make any goddamn money. They don't do anything. Their computers crash, like you said, and they take them.
And
They
that's the
they
thing
can't
too.
even do their job, and they're greedy, and they sell tickets to scalpers who
Yeah.
even move those on. It's ridiculous.
I hate that. Oh my gosh, right? It's just like we're being robbed like in front of us. And it's not like you're seeing the profits. It's like, okay, I could understand like it's so much because a portion it goes to the artist. It just stays with Ticketmaster.
It does indeed. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to dive too deep into this because you keep getting asked over and over again in interviews. I know you have a complicated relationship with your brother. I want to say I want to get maybe free therapy from you. I'm going through a situation with a relative of mine where I feel like it's probably best for me to cut him off. And I think I want to know when would be the right time to do that. Like, and then when should I put myself first?
Always put yourself first. I mean, if it's hurting you, it's damaging you. At the very least, give yourself a long break. At least you can evaluate it. Some
Hmm.
people are just poison. End of story. It's an unhealthy relationship. You're fortunate you're in a position you can end it. Like God is not your mother or your sibling. If it is, I would say yes, remove yourself as soon as possible and revisit. when you're ready. Yeah.
When I'm ready. And what it bothers me is that sometimes I have like friends and family saying like, "Oh, well, you should be a little bit more forgiving." I was like, "Well, why do I have to be the one to do that?"
Well, I speaking from my personal experience, which is deep and pretty sound. I forgave on multiple occasions, and I regret forgiving because you're just revisiting the same hot fire. You're going to get burned again.
Mhm.
So I've been much happier, removed. I'm not going to suddenly walk on stage just because it's more profitable, or more people be interested in it. You got to think of your well-being, your soul, your family, and your loved ones. So
Yeah,
I don't
my
know your
mental health.
story.
Yeah.
Your mental health, you'll destroy you. You'll lose sleep over it. You'll agonize over it. It'll they call it dis-ease for a reason. It'll give you a disease. So
Mhm.
walk
Yeah.
away and breathe. As we say in Wales, fuck
Yeah. Last, I want to end this. I know it's very cheesy. What are you thankful for and what's your New Year's resolution?
I'm very happy with my life. So I hope it continues and I stay healthy. And I hope my 5 beautiful children stay smart and healthy and kind. And that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for spending a time to speak to a millennial like myself this morning.
How old are you?
I am 28 years old.
Yeah, yeah. You'll be the same age as one of my sons. Yeah.
Okay.
So beautiful age.
Oh,
That you're at the peak of your powers right now.
yeah, exactly.
Keep that in mind.